What if you could build one of the coolest locomotives ever developed? Union Pacific did that in the late 40s, I think it was, to early 50s. They designed a gas turbine locomotive. It was called the UP. It consisted of three units: a fuel tank, a B unit that housed a gas turbine, and the front unit that housed an air compressor, an 800 odd horsepower diesel for shunting when the turbine wasn't working, and it also held electric motors. I thought to myself, wouldn't it be really cool to replicate how these things work and build my own UP in an inch and a quarter inch scale gas turbine electric locomotive? Now, I did a bit of research on the internet and found a few photos that I then scaled up in CAD, and that's been the basis for my line drawings, and it's also been the basis that I've been going off. A few people have also contacted me on the forums and given me access to their personal photos, which I must thank them. So now all that's left to do is get into it and start building a UP gas turbine electric locomotive. Get into it, guys. Come on. I'm so excited. So this is what I've ended up with, is a gusset that looks pretty close to being like the original, and that is going to be welded in under there, and that's going to end up looking exactly like the original. So I'm pretty happy with that. Next step will be to install it, and then I'll show you guys what it looks like once it's all fabricated and welded in place. Alright, so it's getting late in the evening. You can see that we're starting to lose a lot of the light here. So I'm going to call it quits for today, but I just thought I'd show you guys. You can see there, looks exactly like the original. Well, not exactly, but it's pretty good representation, put it that way. Both sides are done. Everything's just tacked into place. It's all temporary. There's only a few tacks here and there, but the chassis slowly building up a lot of strength. And the dimensions you see here is exactly right for an inch and a quarter scale. So the representation of that gusset is exactly how the drawings that I'm going off to scale, it's exactly right. So bogies, they're big boys. If I were to put these pieces of steel, I'll just put some there. Okay, so now you can see. But that piece of steel that I've just dropped there, that's actually the size of the bogies on this thing. They're huge. They're really, really big. So they've been drawn up in CAD. I'll show you guys soon enough. And we'll hopefully get them cut out by the laser cutter, and we can make a little bit more progress, because once we have our bogies in place, then we know exactly where everything goes. But the reason I wanted this gusset in place is that when the combustion chamber is sitting here, this gives us an extra bit of space that we can hide. I'm hoping to get a tank in under there for an oil system, but if I don't, then the front unit's going to end up having a tank, and we've got these holes here that we can utilize to run a return oil feed to the sump, but we'll work that out as we go. So that will be the general shape of our pilot beam, and this is going to be the recess for, or the pocket for the coupler to go through. And this is a little piece that I've made to infill. I could have put this in the milling machine and milled it, but you know what? I couldn't be bothered. Just time-wise, it was quicker and easier just to square it up in the mill as an open piece. If it was laser cut, it would have been awesome, because you could have already cut the square or the rectangle already. But we're doing this at home in our garage, and this is the way that I'm going to do it. So this is the back, and you won't see this. Essentially, it will be flipped the other way, and that's what you might see cosmetically. So now I'm just going to weld it together and then repeat the process for the other end, and then that'll be the two ends finished. So that's a fair bit of fabrication out of the way, and it'll be really good to get in here and tidy up, because there is a huge amount of mess and I have a limited amount of space as it is. So one of the ways to clean up the majority of the mess is to start putting stuff back on the chassis. This is the other end. This one's for up here. This is our buffer. It's got a relief in there for a coupler when we eventually get them, but they're both identical, and they've turned out really well. When you look at the original one and you look at the drawings, I'm basically scaling them up, and yeah, it looks exactly the same. So that can stay there for the moment. This is the back of, or the front of our B unit, which we've made. That now has a cutaway, a door, and it's got its surround. It's not finished yet. It can't be mounted to the chassis until we do a few more welds, which is what we're going to do next. So I've just used the end to be a template for the other end. So now I can unclamp them. They can go up there. Now we have the profile that's exactly the same for our exhaust end. So I'm going to have to measure everything up on this piece of steel here and cut a relief for the exhaust for the turbine, and the original works out to have quite a large amount of this roof line here to be removed. So I need to draw that out next, remove that, and that'll then be this end close to being finished. Alright. Now I did this, I made this removable so that I could get access into the end, and I did the cutout of the door. Normally there's a door there because I wasn't sure whether or not we'll use this as an entrance to try and direct some more cooler air in there. So for the time being I'm not going to put a door, but essentially this is how it is, and I'm just going to start working on the other end now. Now fortunately I prepared this end when I made the other end, and we're going to have to put this in here and tack it in place, and by doing this we can then turn around and put our end plate on. We're going to have to remove this bit of square, and the reason we're doing all this is that all the cosmetic things on this B unit that I'm recreating now sets the parameters to which the other systems that support the gas turbine can be placed. So the gas turbine, or the turbo that's being changed into a gas turbine, it has to have a free power unit, which is essentially harnessing the gases produced by the combustion chamber to turn that into usable work, or taking the velocity of the gases and turning it into a mechanical what's the word? The mechanical energy. And from that mechanical energy, that's then going to be transferred into a generator, and the generator is then going to go to the wheel bogies that will have electric motors, and that will then turn it into attractive force. Inside here, I have to have a cooling system for the oil system and an oil tank. And all these systems, where they will sit, will be, the parameters will be set by cosmetically where things are, and also essentially where the combustion chamber and everything's been located. So this is really essential that I do this correct to the model, because if I turn around and just put things wherever they need to go just to get it up and running now, it's going to bite me in the ass later when I want to turn around and make something or put something somewhere, and I can't because the oil cooler's in the way and it now needs to be put somewhere else. So it's easier to just get everything right to start with, and then hopefully we end up with something that represents what a Union Pacific gas turbine B unit was, and hopefully we get something that we can actually have a bit of fun with. For the outline of the rear end, this is a significantly large radius in here, which you guys would have seen me cut out with the grinder. I'm really quite pleased with how it's turning out. It's cosmetically, it's looking very close to the original, and it's setting the parameters to which we need to sort of try and fit everything into. And yeah, I think the next bit is we'll fit the stripping along here to help secure the roof. And then we've just got to do the air vent that goes above the gas turbine. So to me, this thing is looking awesome. The gas turbine is sitting exactly where it should be. Everything is to scale. You can see that we've got a little bit of a height issue, but we've got an air filter assembly that goes over the top. And funny enough, I prepared one earlier. So off camera, I made this, and this is pretty much to the scale of, well, it's exactly the right height, and it's exactly the right scale. So that's going to cover everything perfectly. And as you can see, cosmetically, everything's fitting into our parameters. So this is our areas here that we've got to work with our turbine. Obviously, I've still got to do the roof, but with COVID restrictions at the moment, it's getting a little hard to roll the steel that I need to. So you're just going to have to be patient. There will be a part 3 coming out of this build series, I suppose. And yeah, if you enjoyed the video, please give it a thumbs up. If you'd like to share it with other friends who you think might have an interest and might be able to help me, by all means get them on board. And if you haven't subscribed, hit the subscribe button now. Now for you guys who have just caught on to this video, we have a part 1 where I made the gas turbine. So if you haven't looked that up already, then please do. It will be either here or here. And yeah, if you want to get in contact with me, we have a Facebook page, Shed Talk. Look it up. You can send me a private message, and if you have any other advice or questions, I'm happy to answer when I get a chance to. So till next time, guys, thanks for your support. Take care. Goodbye. That's from me.